All right, Maxwell McGuire joining us, director and screenwriter of a great film called Foreverland that you're about to see in theaters. You got to check this film out. It's a road trip. It's romantic. It's beautiful. It's got some tension to it. Everything else. Maxwell, how are you, man?
Excellent. Thank you guys for having me.
Good.
So how many years in the making for Foreverland? Forever.
This is the Canadian film story right here.
We joked when we retitled it Foreverland that it was Forever and Ever and Everland.
So when did it start originally? 2005,
I think I conceived of it and started working in my basement with my co-screenwriter Sean Riopel, and had no idea it was going to end up here. As we were talking earlier, I planned on making this as a credit card film, and so this is a...
Yeah, you were, I mean, it is in essential. Maybe we should go through Foreverland and the pitch and give us the outline of the film so people know what we're talking about a little bit.
It's about a young man named Will Rankin who goes on a road trip after one of his friends passes and tasks him with taking his ashes down to a miracle shrine in Mexico, and he wants him to spread them over this pond. And so that's the plot line. But
thanks, buddy.
But it really is a road trip movie.
It really is a road trip, but it's also, you know, it's a love story. It's a dark comedy, and it really is about learning how to live, love,
and let's talk about Cystic Fibrosis. It's opening in theaters on Friday, and proceeds are going to Cystic Fibrosis.
Some of the net proceeds, I think everybody's committed 20% to net proceeds to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, which is really great. We've done a charity screening here in Vancouver, and so we're trying to raise awareness and funds for CF, and not just...
And you have it yourself, as does, well, the lead character and the other character you spoke of who passed away. Why did you decide to do a road trip, dark comedy as you described it, about CF?
I wanted to make a movie about cystic fibrosis for a while, but you didn't know what story to tell. And then, in a momentary dark phase, my last friend, my last peer with CF, who I'd grown up with in the hospital, passed away, and my sister was CF as well, and I looked at each other kind of jokingly and said, "Who's next?"
Yeah.
And then you wonder, you know, I don't feel sick, but is this how it happens?
Yeah.
You know, and then what happens when you're going to pass away? You got to plan your funeral. Who's going to go?
Well,
what are these thoughts? And so they got funny. I wanted to get it out of the dark area. I mean, that's dark for a moment, but then we said there could be a lot of fun from this. And then the journey itself is the physical representation of the mental journey Will takes to learn how to live.
I was going to say, because everybody, you know, in life goes through this idea that at some point you have to reconcile yourself to the fact that life is finite. It might be longer, it might be shorter, who knows? But that really is sort of the movement for William, the main character, as well, is, you know, he has to recognize that he's not living because he's worried about not living.
Exactly. No, it's some Mobius strip of not living till you learn to live. And so you know, we took the outline from, roughly, The Wizard of Oz, There's No Place Like Home. Sometimes you got to go all the way to the desert heart of Mexico to a dirty little pond.
The original road trip movies.
The original. And so you got to go all the way to a filthy pond to realize it was okay where you had it. You just had to look around
How much did it change between, I mean, 2005, when you first sort of come up with the idea, script it, and you were, like you mentioned, thinking about this as you, a couple buddies, grab a camera, you guys go on your road trip, and away you go. How much did it change just in tone and polish and finish and everything over the years?
Two major ways. I mean, the format road trip was always there, but initially we were going to India, and I was going to do a backpacker film. I just wanted to go to India, I suppose, like every young guy.
I'm going to write a movie.
Yeah, I know how to get there.
This is the greatest tax deduction I've ever come up with.
And then, you know, through various grant writing, I think we had a Salt Spring Island version as well.
Yeah.
Because we're like, let's get some
credit cards, maybe Salt Spring's better.
Let's see, I'm in Ottawa. We can probably get to Sarnia.
And then once we figured out North America, my writer and I decided Mexico is the most interesting. I mean, there is a real shrine in our pilgrimage in New Mexico, which I took with a friend or two friends, and we thought Mexico was a little bit sexier than New Mexico.
Yeah.
And so we crossed the border, made it a transcontinental trip, and turned it into a movie.
And morbid humor, I mean, it's either some people's game or not. Maybe it's because I'm Irish, but in my family, it gets you through life and death. And sometimes, I mean, it's the best medicine. Do you find the same thing when people are watching the film, that they are a little shocked at first and then maybe just learn to laugh and learn to live?
I find it's the same with the film as with myself. When I meet people, I toss out a joke or two. It's easier to laugh through a sad story than it is cry about it. And we wanted to make sure that the humor transferred to the movie to make it more acceptable. acceptable. No, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
More visual to everybody.
You know, we just saw a little bit of the film, and there was a few days, well, no, actually quite a bit of the film happens in rain, storms, everything else. Planned, unplanned, as you're shooting the film, is that just stuff that kind of unfolds as you're going?
Both. You know, when you write in a rainstorm, everybody's like, oh, geez, we got to fake it.
Rain machines are expensive.
You know, exactly. And then you don't write it in, of course, you get the rain. So, you know, with the movie like this, we were lucky because it just kind of ended up fitting. The road trip narrative, Will's mind, his motif, and then, of course, you end up in the beautiful desert sun of Mexico where they're stripped down from all their jackets and their coats and everything. And
the colors are beautiful, too. We just saw in the clip there a glimpse of Juliette Lewis, and we have to mention her and the rest of the cast that came together for this movie, because it really was fantastic.
We lucked out. I mean, you don't get to, you know, as a Canadian filmmaker coming off credit card films, to be able to work with 2 Oscar nominees, a bunch of up-and-coming, and then some journeyman Canadian character actors. Juliette Lewis, you know, and I.
And she's marvelous in her role.
Yeah. We only had her for a day.
Yeah.
But it was a power pack.
Yeah, you made good use of it.
Yeah. She, my lead actor Max and I. We inadvertently made her cry.
Why? How?
Twice, actually, in 12 hours.
In one day?
Yeah, once we showed her, on my iPhone, we showed her the pre-cut trailer just from 5 days of shooting. She's like, it's really beautiful. It's just like I thought it was going to be. And then
she struck me as the really raw type. Yeah.
Very, very like she is an old school. Minus the plot point.
Right.
And so the second time, we were singing that Dire Straits song, Juliette, Romeo, and she goes, you know, we go out playing it like John Cusack and singing it to her, and she's like, you don't even know what you're doing.
Again, how important was it for you as someone who has cystic fibrosis, because the main character Will has it, and his daily regime, the regimen, you know, the things that he needs to cope with what's happening to his body. How important was it for you to reflect that, not as a major plot point, but just as part of the everyday of this character, and represent it with truth?
Very. I mean, when I talk to my family, I'm always most concerned about what my friends think, my family, and then ultimately people with CF, and then of course the general public. But you want to honor the illness properly, and now everybody with CF, it affects them differently, and I've been very lucky in my journey with it. I won't call it too much of a struggle yet. I mean, it comes and goes, but. You know, Max asked me, was it autobiographical, and I told him it wasn't, and he was to create his own character, but I told him to use me as a resource. I've lived almost every one of these scenarios, and so he did, and he really took hold of the voice. That was the one he pegged. He wanted to go after the voice, wanted to get the rasp. I never realized I had a raspy voice, and apparently I do.
No, not at all, Max. It's fine.
Hey, how are you?
And as Fiona mentioned, it opens up on the 15th in most markets. Calgary, you get it on the 22nd because you're so awesome you need an extra week to prepare. We're going to take a break.